Ask a social entrepreneur, and they tell you that the upside of social entrepreneurship is directly impacting lives and livelihoods, and often in underserved segments. On the flip side, many would cite one of the downsides of social entrepreneurship as the inability to appeal to mainstream markets, resulting in low revenues and capital to reinvest in the business. In this episode of the Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast, I'm joined by Dr. Kate Ford, founder and director of Argo's House, owner of Autistic and Loved, author, spiritual director, and nonviolent advocate, who'll share her journey and insights on the importance of growing your leadership influence for sustainability as a social entrepreneur. Welcome, Dr. Ford.
Thank you, Modesta. It's good to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. I'm so excited about the conversation we're about to have. Dr. Ford, you're a serial global social entrepreneur. I just thought this is how I'll encapsulate all that you are and do. And I know I'm not even touching at the surface. Why did you choose to use a social enterprise business model?
Yeah, so I am vocationally trained as a community development worker, a chaplain, and an educator. So those are my first degrees are in those areas. I moved forward over 12 years ago as a spiritual director and in spirituality, but I never knew that business could be combined with ministry and also doing good, not just business to, as a social entrepreneur, helping people, but also a profitable business where you could really grow a business while also serving marginalized populations. About 12 years ago, I heard about my now mentor. Her name is Reverend Becca Stevens. She started an organization called Thistle Farms about 25 years ago, where she started a healing house for women called the Magdalene House, where women who were fleeing trafficking and prostitution and addiction could live for 2 years rent-free, receive free holistic services. But she had issues with finding the women jobs. No one wanted to employ them. And so she started a bath and body product company to employ the women. It took many years for the business to grow, but now they're a multi-million-dollar social enterprise and Whole Foods and other places. And there have been a lot of growing pains there, but they set the model for me and so many. And so when I was a young seminary student, I visited Nashville, volunteered at Thistle Farms, and I saw how a woman could do good and could even be ordained clergy and could start a multi-million-dollar business. And that planted the seed for me to know what was possible.
Oh, my.
Yeah. So, for me, it hasn't, just seeing someone doing something doesn't mean that you can just replicate that and just spread your wings automatically and fly. It's taken a lot of educating myself. I have several degrees, but most of my degrees are focused on service and ministry and psychology, helping people and healing from trauma and other things. And so I had to learn about business. You can start a business, but you have to educate yourself so that you can know how to dot I's and cross T's. So in 2017, there was a cohort. I encourage people, if you're interested in social entrepreneurship, if you're interested in business, to take a course, to take a certificate program, to see if there are accelerator programs through the local business schools. There was an organization that had a accelerator program. It was just 8 weeks. For Christian social entrepreneurs, Christian social innovators. And I said, why not? I have had no idea that I would be learning how to make soap, that I would be pitching to investors to start a healing house and a soap company. At the time, I was a full-time professor teaching theology and religion. And so, and had a baby on my hip at the same time as well. But what I did? I started going down. There was a local craft store that had classes where you could learn about how to blend essential oils, complementary oils, how to how to make bath bombs and other things. And there was a woman in my community that I knew made amazing body butters. So I asked her to be my mentor. So between the accelerator teaching me about LLCs, 501c3s, B Corp, business plans, all these different things, and then the combination of me going to the classes at night after I taught at the college, we were able to start Argos House and actually start our business before we purchased our first home for women survivors of violence, where we would employ them through this business. Moving forward, I used to live in the Caribbean, the island nation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so when I had went back to on a mission trip that I had organized, I saw these beautiful soaps in the National Museum. And I said, this lady needs to be my mentor. And so I reached out to her. Her number was on the soap label. And so she coaches me. She's a cosmetic chemist, cosmetic scientist that helps me with perfecting our recipes, making them beautiful, using natural ingredients. And, it's been a journey, with COVID and other things, we've had to pivot our business. But we've had substantial growth. And, the first 2 years with Argos House, because we're a healing house for women survivors of violence, where we provide free holistic services, but we're a bath and body product company that employs women survivors. That first 2 years that we were established, almost every single weekend, I was out in the community. I had tables at churches, women's conventions, boutiques, anywhere where people would listen to what we were up to with our mission, but also try our products. We were there. It took a lot of sacrifice, and it's still, any type of entrepreneurship takes a lot of sacrifice and drive and grit. But, that those first years educating myself about business, about social entrepreneurship, and really perfecting our product as well, because you have customers and they may purchase because it's a social enterprise, we're helping women, but customers come back because you really work to create an excellent product, and they really enjoy it. It has its benefits. So, I think a combination of things have really helped us with growing Argos House, that connection with the community, and being at the forefront of everything that we can to share our mission and our products and what we're doing with women, but also getting the right mentors, getting the right coaching myself, and educating myself as a social entrepreneur so that I could grow this business with intention, with the plan that has had to pivot at moments, but it was important to have that foundation when we first started.
Oh, Dr. Ford, this is incredible. You've mentioned innovation both in the model, the business model that you use, but I really resonate with your statement that, look, it's one thing, to share a cause that will target people's heartstrings, but they will come back because you have an excellent product and you're able to put that to market. That's I think where social entrepreneurs may struggle is they might lean on the social. Don't you think this is a compelling story? Wouldn't you want to help? Right? And not understand this is business. and
Absolutely.
And you have from the very beginning spoken about putting on a business hat. Taking the courses, getting the mentors and the coaches, learning about the different models and what would work, and perfecting the model. So you're offering, Argos House is offering services, and the women who are the beneficiaries are not paying for that, but it has an enterprise income generating wing that then complements it. What would you and I know, even in my little narration here, I've touched on that. But what advice would you give social entrepreneurs who want to go out, who want to do good, but are kind of anxious whether they'd be able to do well, and feel that they would be sacrificing, like reaching out and making a difference is going to come at a sacrifice, and they're not quite sure if that would not only be preferable but sustainable, really, for their
Yeah,
livelihood,
yeah.
and for the business continuity.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, thank you, Modesta, for the question. I think there are a couple things that come to mind. There are two pieces that we continue to talk about: the entrepreneurship piece, the actual business product or service that you're offering, but then the population, the cause, the mission, the people that you are serving, working to serve in solidarity with. At times, I mean, there are different models of social enterprise. You could be working with marginalized populations like Argos House, working with women and children survivors, or you could have like a corporate social responsibility model where, I know there's an organization that out of Florida that does things with soaps as well, but they educate corporations on how to be how to be socially responsible. So they come in and volunteer, and then they send soaps out they like recycle soaps.
Mhm.
And so there are different ways that you can, and they send those soaps to like different places around the world. And so there are different ways that you can do social enterprise, but for us, it's important to, I think, when you are committing to a cause, first of all, the work, it can be difficult. When you commit your life and the work that you do to serving a marginalized populations, there's the reality of trauma. There's the reality of, people boundaries. I mean, like, for example, with Argos House, I have two phones, right? One of my phones is personal, the other phone, which we have a full time social worker now in the next room. But I always feel the need to always keep this phone, and probably over 100 women that we're in community would have access to this. I probably shouldn't have that phone 24 hours a day, but
Mhm.
I am so deeply connected to this cause. One thing that I know, the cause that you choose, because it is something, I mean, eventually, prayerfully, as you grow, you'll be able to hire full-time staff to assist with delegating. But in the beginning, you do a lot of the different activities and jobs as it relates to the services and also the business. And so you want to make sure it's a cause that you're passionate about. For me, in 2008, when I was a U.S. Peace Corps volunteer, I was serving in the Caribbean, and I unfortunately became a survivor of an extremely violent sexual assault. And, part of my healing journey was to understand what would help women in healing from trauma, but also Argos House, our social enterprise was birthed from my own personal pain point, and that's a huge reason why I'm committed to this cause. Argro is actually my first name, but it's also my grandmother's name. She was a survivor of domestic violence. And so
Mm.
we do this in honor of her name. And so it gives me a different type of attachment to this work. And
Mm.
regardless of, how difficult it gets, we do have to reevaluate things because we do have to take care of ourselves. I listened to Oasis last night, Modesta, and the talk about self-care. It was beautiful. Oh, the group
Wow.
of women. It was beautiful to listen to all
Wow.
of the really nuggets, the really amazing nuggets of wisdom. So, self-care is important, but you have to make sure that you're committing to a cause, not just something that you saw on a billboard and, oh,
Mhm.
that's interesting. Not just something you read in an article, but something that's so deeply connected to your heart, to your soul, that you will be willing to journey with and stay with for the long haul as it relates to being in solidarity with that cause and with
Mm.
people. I also think that we were talking about business. Modesta, I want to make sure I'm articulating what I was reflecting on in regards to business as well and the commitment to
Just
business.
really
Uh,
the advice to another social entrepreneur who may be anxious, thinking, I might do good, but I'm just anxious
mhm.
whether I would actually be able to do well and be able to sustain this, both for my livelihood
Yeah.
and, for business continuity.
Yeah, absolutely. So in business, one thing that I'm learning, I just started another social enterprise called Autistic and Loved.
Hmm.
And so I'm going through the process that I went through with Argos House. So I'm talking to about 100 of my customers now, just to really understand their pain points, understand what they really need so that I'm not creating a product or providing services that they may need something in another area, and so I'm trying to kind of understand them more. So whenever, as it relates to product development services, you want to make sure, even if you don't have any customers yet, you want to talk to your ideal customers and ask questions, even if it's people in your family, have a focus group, ask questions about, okay, well, what would you, if it's a product, certain questions to kind of ask what would be helpful for them, and what are the things that they need in their life as it relates to this particular type of product. And so, I say do your research, get a mentor, ask your customers or potential customers what it is that they're needing, because you don't want to create something that just sits on the shelf. You don't want to create something that people may not need or have a service for, or service as far as needing. And so you want to do that research. You want to, there's a program called SCORE, Small Business Planning, in most cities around the U.S. I'm sure there are virtual courses online through SCORE for people in other countries. Most business schools all around the world have teachers or certificate programs, or even some in the U.S. have accelerator programs where you can just do an 8-week course, to really understand your customers and to really craft your pitch and your business plan and your business model canvas. So even if you don't have access to those things, they're printable documents that you can find. Just research business model canvas, and there'll be templates that come up where you can literally write in, all of the different components related to your business and a plan for it moving forward. And so I say, really do your research, because you want to create something that you're passionate about, but also you want to create something where there's a need for your service as well.
Which this is so refreshing, because sometimes people think, well, this is not working because it's a social enterprise. I might have a social related product, but no. It's the fact that maybe you went out on passion alone, or, you really didn't check the market you didn't do the research to find out what would actually thrive. And that's actually just a question for business in general. So it's not because you got into, social entrepreneurship, that maybe you're sacrificing margins and growth. You didn't do the work that would actually validate, what you want to take to market.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, we want to do good. Many of us are already doing good, right? And those things, one thing that I know in ministry, sometimes we think that we have to separate making money with ministry, or making our business and ministry, but I am kind of in this movement of Christian social innovators, where we have conversations about making money and also serving the best that we can as disciples and ministers, spreading the love of Christ, right? I think that they can go hand in hand, especially when you're doing it with compassion, with good intention. And the more money we make, the more people that we can serve, right? And so, so it's important to do that with excellence. I know. So it's important to do that with excellence, and it's important to do that with a plan, right? So in our conversations, it's okay to put, ministry and vocation, business plan. Yes, they can go hand in hand.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, I think that is necessary and important. Now, one thing though, I will keep it real. So with social enterprise, we're able to often combine 3 different streams of income. So you have, because in the US, if you are a 501c3, or I think in other countries, you also can have a nonprofit status. And so you're able to apply for grants, and, families can assist with endowments and other things. You can get private donations. And then you have the stream of resources from your social enterprise as well. And so you have, it takes time, but if you're doing it right, from the fundraising aspect, grants, and also uh, increasing and growing your social enterprise, you can kind of pump that engine. I do know several, like Thistle Farms, our mentor organization. They didn't take grants for the bulk of their organization's life because they're faith based. They didn't want to have to write a grant, and do their programming connected to a grant. They wanted to have the openness to be able to lead and serve the way that they wanted to without any restriction. But there are families out there that that are wealthy and they just want to give to organizations doing good work. And social enterprise, social innovation, it's a really powerful way to do ministry work and to do business as well. And so people really see that and often want to be a part of that, which is really a blessing.
This is so good. I actually would really like to touch on this. Uh, you know, uh, Being able to leverage grants and
Mm-hmm,
partnerships, and of course creating products that you can take to market. People feel awkward,
mm-hmm,
whether it's applying for grants or speaking of their
mm-hmm,
work, but speaking of it in, would you support us and the work that we're doing. But you don't
mm-hmm,
seem to have
mm-hmm,
issues with that at all, because I see you on social media, whether it's Our Girl's House and what you're doing or Artistic and Loved. You own it, you love
mm-hmm,
it, you're so passionate about it. You're not even salesy. How do you
mm-hmm,
how do you
mm-hmm,
appeal for support? How do you and
mm-hmm,
appeal just sounds like charity? Oh, feel sorry for me.
mm-hmm,
But how do you
mm-hmm,
do
mm-hmm.
that in a compelling way that actually attracts partnership rather than repel relationship?
Abs- Absolutely. Well, that's the thing. You said it right here at the end. It's about relationship.
Mm,
It's about, we we probably give as many soap gifts out like
mhm,
then we're always giving gifts. We're always like thanking people. We're always affirming. We're always somewhere seeing what we can do to be present with others. So
mhm,
we're asking, but we're also behind the scenes having meetings, having
mhm,
coffee,
mhm,
on the phone, like having Zooms, just having conversations, telling people our mission, seeing how we can assist or they can assist by volunteering, like,
mhm, mhm,
giving a, when we do our fundraising, every year, our gala, we take a letter, but we also take a small gift, right? We have one of a small soap that says thank you and a handwritten note from our ladies. We have one of our ladies is an artist. Her and her daughter do amazing work. And so for our major donors who donate 20,000 plus a year, we have her hand paint a really beautiful painting on a canvas, for them. And it's usually personalized, something that's really important to them, right? So little things like that help to nurture relationships. And it's
mhm.
not just like take, 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 take.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're in this together. Our ladies may give them a call and give them an update on how they're doing, what they're up to. We have newsletters, annual reports. We do an email blast every week to
Mm,
kind of update people on what we're up to. And so, it's even with granting organizations, I find that when you work to have a relationship, even if it's calling that foundation or that grant to see if you can have a Zoom call, share your mission, see how you can be connected beyond just the application. People really in organizations and grants, individuals, wealthy families, they remember you in that way. And
mm,
sometimes those relationships take time. It's not sometimes something you may not get that grant or that donor that first time around, but continue to try and nurture relationships, because really that's what fundraising, that's what donors, that's even what customer base is about, developing even through social media and other things with your customer. You are developing a relationship, a trustworthy relationship where they remember you and they come back to purchase or to help.
this is so good. Which then takes me to the question, just how important is it for the leader, right?
Mhm,
Of,
mhm,
of
mhm,
of the social enterprise to grow their
mhm,
leadership
mhm.
influence, for the sustainability of the social enterprise.
Yeah, well, in the beginning, I mean, you're one of the, you're probably the main
You're it.
employee. And when you're first starting, you may be paid. It's taken some time for me to be paid a good living wage because I
Mm,
was thinking about others before I thought about, myself early on being a social enterprise. But, thanks be to God, the resources have come for me to now be compensated. But it takes time. And in the beginning, because we're so deeply connected to our cause, like
mm,
our voice, our story, why we're so deeply connected, with social enterprise, there's the business, but there's also a story connected to that business and why what you're doing matters beyond. I mean, the business is important, but even beyond the business. So you have to
mm,
tell your story. You have to tell the story of the organization. You have to step out of your comfort zone and share. And me, no one would know. I am totally an introvert. Like I
mm,
am 120% an introvert. But in order to do this work, I've had to really step out and
mm,
take a leap of faith and share. Anybody that will hear what we're up to will hear. We always share, and so I think sharing is not just about it's about our mission, but it's also about educating people. It's about educating on whatever area of expertise that your social enterprise is involved with. That's important as well. And even with your product, like we have a Bath and Body product, but we have natural ingredients. We have certain things that are really good for the skin, and so that also is part of the relationship as well. And so yeah, I think that there's sacrifice for sure throughout this journey. But the more relationships you build, the more you're clear about what it is that you're doing and why you're doing it,
mm.
and the more you are able to get the mentors and do what you need to do to really, really perfect your product or your service,
Mm.
the more your organization will grow leaps and bounds.
Dr. Ford, this has been such a rich conversation. Um, Thank you for and I think our 360 leadership community hears you clearly. Find a cause that that impacts you directly.
Hmm. Hmm.
You've shared your grandmother's story, and you've shared yours,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, and you've turned that pain into purpose, and so I can imagine. I've heard you say the word sacrifice several times, but I can imagine
Okay.
that whenever that thought of quitting or slowing down or doing things differently or having a different model comes up, you remember your why. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that
Hmm.
keeps you going. But I've really heard you say, look, you need to invest in understanding business. You shared, I
Oh,
mean, you're talking
absolutely.
for not because you're a medical doctor, it's because you're a PhD doctor, and you have how many
Hmm.
degrees did you
Hmm.
say? 4 or 5? But
Yep. Yep.
many.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so you're
Hmm.
saying even with that, I went
Hmm.
and I had to learn about business and models at work and find mentors. So what I'm hearing is grace and grit.
Oh
um,
yeah, I love that. I love that. Grace and grit. It's
yeah,
true. You gotta have it.
yeah,
You gotta have it, and you have to believe. You have to believe that what you're doing matters. You have to believe, for us as Christians, that this is part of our vocation, part of why God put us on the planet. But
mm,
also, sometimes in this work, it helps us make sense of our own path and
mm,
why we've experienced certain things, right?
mm,
All things work together for good. And I think that sometimes, we go through things so that we can be a blessing, to others and help them along the path as well. And so that's oftentimes the work of social enterprise as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's such a blessing that uh, and I'm sure now you're probably piecing things a lot easier than when you started. When you were trying to put the fragments together, and so the person who's listening to this would really benefit from understanding the different elements, the why, the clarity of vision, getting a mentor, going, learning business and perfecting the model as you go, etc. You said, different income generating or fundraising connections, and you said, I am 120% introvert, but I understood this would take sacrifice. This would take, personal investment, and after this conversation with you, then I am not seeing, of course, the model is different, and the different stakeholders that you really have to connect with deeply is different. But I'm hearing an entrepreneur with a cause that they're passionate about and wants to take it to market and wants to do well and to do good and deliver excellence. And you're saying with anything that you're committed to do, this is the level of investment, sacrifice, and follow through that would be needed.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I think I know with the Oasis group is just from watching briefly, is such a driven, well accomplished, encouraging group of women. And so I'm really proud of all of you all.
Thank you.
So I think that we know on this call what it takes to succeed as far as grace and grit, but as a social entrepreneur, we have to apply those same things that we've learned, throughout the years in our professional life in different ways. But yeah, check out Argos House at argoshouse.org, ARGROWSHOUSE.org. And yeah, I'm just grateful that you had us on today, Modesta. And I encourage all of the aspiring social entrepreneurs to do your research, follow your heart, and send Modesta or myself a message, and we're here to help as well. But God bless and Godspeed on the journey.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Ford. Now, you've directed us to Argos House. Is that where people can get in touch with you as well? Should they want to reach out?
Yeah. So my email, drkitford@gmail.com, drkitford@gmail.com, or you can call our cell at 563-528-0892. So yeah, check us out, and we would love to be in touch.
Thank you again, Dr. Ford. This has been wonderful.
All right. Thank you, Modesta. This is awesome. I'm so proud of you, and blessings on the journey.
Thank you so very much. Have a wonderful one.
Okay. You too.
I know you heard Dr. Ford make reference to the Oasis. That's a monthly meetup I host for women leaders that are part of my client base. Thank you for joining us on the Modesta Mahiga 360 Leadership Podcast. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast and share this episode to add value to another leader. Remember, you can only lead others as well as you lead yourself. If you would like to get support with your leadership development so that you can effectively influence others' organizational and market results, reach out to us on modestamahiga.com. Goodbye for now.